Okay, I'm gonna give this another try, but I'm not seeing my microphone moving, so I'm wondering if that has cut out again. I don't know. I think I'm gonna end up having to give StreamYard a try because I'm not sure what's going on with the YouTube stream. Either something going on with Wi-Fi in general. So yeah, I don't know. Hey, okay, you can hear me there? I don't know what happened in the last stream. It was very weird. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna have to give StreamYard a try. Usually I can see like the little green lights or that, but you can hear me, JP? Yeah, so the stuff with the universe, it's very fascinating. I mean, between the different asteroids and all of that for sure is okay, it was fine on your end. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's weird, but I'll have to see with StreamYard because okay, good. Yay. Um, I have to give that a try because I can do different things with backgrounds. But the nice thing is, with StreamYard, I can even throw up some pictures and different things. So I can start having some clips. I'm very excited because I now have 4 people who have all given me a yes to being on the live stream. And I'm thinking I'm going to wait till the spring because I'm hoping that I have a few more people starting to come for the live streams by that point. Um, and I'll have to see. I mean, the Fridays, well, work for both of us, and we're both here, JP. And I'll have to see whether that, maybe jiggle it around, try earlier in the week or something. Because the reality is, there's always going to be someone else doing a live stream or that at the time. But yeah, so that it. Thanks for sharing that. That's very exciting about astronomy. I'll have to check that out because I know I had seen something because I've actually been watching more booktube channels and science channels. I've kind of taken a step away from the paranormal for now, except for Dead Cold and World of Mr. Gray. I think I watched a shape video the other day, and I go to Karen's live streams Friday nights, Doof Doof Paranormal. But other than those 3, I've kind of taken a step back. I did watch Ouija Brothers live the other day, mainly because I wanted to see kind of what's going to be going on with the channel and what's been going on with them lately. And I know, and Steve was saying that he's been having some really bad headaches since November. So I hope they can get that figured out for him and he's on the mend soon. We'll have to see what some of their content and things are like. But obviously, right now, he can't get out and about and he needs to get his health in order first, for sure. But yeah, I haven't really been watching a whole lot of paranormal stuff lately. And I think part of it for me, and there was a sweet couple I just found. And of course, I'm going to have a mind fart now at what the name of their channel is. So I'll have to mention it below. But I mean, sweet couple. And very sweet that they've also subscribed to me and been watching my content. But what I'm finding with a lot of the paranormal channels is they're one, either going to places that everybody else has already kind of gone to. And I just don't think you're going to find much in some of those places anymore. But I enjoy some of those episodes because of the history and the different take that everybody has on them. The other side are the people who are going into a lot of abandoned homes or old hospitals, what have you. And what I'm finding a bit frustrating with that isn't so much the going into abandoned places, although I guess on one hand you could look at it as trespassing. And but what I find frustrating is these places are just loaded with stuff like furniture, clothing, kitchenware. Some of the places have old records and things. And it just blows my mind, I think, in part because in my area, and I know in so many other areas, there's this huge issue of homelessness. I don't know, they've got some politically correct term for it now here. It just, to me, it's like, people stop wasting time on the terms and actually do something to help and support people. Like, good heavens. And I'm just finding it frustrating watching people walk around these buildings that are crammed with stuff that people could use. And the other part that irritates me, because in my area, we're losing more and more farms for subdivision after subdivision, because I guess we're going to be eating concrete in the future. I don't know. But so all this building is happening, and yet all these buildings are sitting there empty. Like it's just it's mind-boggling and ridiculous. So I've just had to take a step back from some of that for a while because it's just beyond irritating to think there are so many people out there in need. Prices, things are skyrocketing, groceries, everything. And then you look at these places and it's just an insane amount of waste. Like I don't get whether these people packed up and just walked away from the homes, whether the owner passed away and there was nobody to come empty the home. But you would think some of these people would have, like, if they left a will or something, there'd be a lawyer, somebody to go and, you know, take care of things and send that stuff to people who could use it and who are in need. Like it I don't know. It really does boggle my brain for sure. Yeah, I'm pretty much to actually, you've pretty much named the only ones. Well, no, I still watch Ouija, but we'll have to see where that channel goes. And hey, Dan, welcome. Doing good. Great to see you. And I did get your email. Thank you so much. And I was mentioning it'll probably be sometime in maybe May or June when I do that Hoax Holy Grail episode. And Mark's on board as well, dead cold. And I will definitely have it arranged for UK time. So it'll be at a reasonable time when both of you can make it. Because I'd really love to hear your take on what it was like for you at 30 East Drive compared to what it was like for Mark. Because I really enjoyed your episode and your interview with Steve and Griff. And I love Mark's style. And I'll be honest, if not for the Ouija brothers, I would never have heard of 30 East Drive. It isn't a location that had come up on my radar before. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So I need to look a bit more into 30 East Drive, and fingers crossed by then I'll have figured out how to use StreamYard so I can have guests and other things. Actually, Dan, what is it that you use when you do your streams? Because you're quite good with the different screens and see, there was, and see, I bet Amityville Horror would have been the same. And so here's how actually, so yes, I'm now officially 60. Woo-hoo-hoo. So I remember reading the book by Jay Anson on Amityville Horror. And thank you so much for doing your episode, um, because I had also watched the film when it came out. So, of course, there was so much stuff. And again, like with The Conjuring, once people found out where the house was, everybody was suddenly, okay, OBS, I don't have that. And I'm just like, YouTube to start this out was great, and kind of getting out there and getting a feel for it. Um, but yeah, and Amity, it's interesting what you had to say about it, because when I had read Worker in the Light by George Newry, ooh, free software, that's in my budget. I'll have to check that out for sure. But in George Newry's book, he actually mentioned there's another investigator who mentioned that he thinks it's now haunted because of everyone focusing on that location. So he had said that originally he didn't think there was anything there, that it was just he oh yes, and happy belated to you, JP. But yeah, so this person was saying he didn't think that it was originally haunted. And oh, not today, it was on the 9th. But thank you for the happy birthday wishes. Um, but this person was saying he didn't think it was originally haunted, that, it was all made up by the Lutzes who couldn't afford the property. And no worries, Dan. I kind of keep my birthday usually on the hush hush. Um, so yeah, it's all good. I typically don't make a big deal about it. It was just this year, woohoo, 60 years. Who'd have thunk it? It's very liberating. 50 was awesome. 60 is even better. Um, but yeah, now this guy thinks that it's because everyone's so focused on that property. So it's almost like a tulpa where, people either conjure or make, the energy create something. And so I'm going to go back and watch your episode, because you mentioned the owners now of this property are saying there's absolutely nothing to it. Like, and I personally think it was a scam. I mean, there was that horror that happened with the son, who I think just passed away in jail a few years ago. But so you have that horrific incident, and then a while later, the Lutzes buy it, and there was all kinds of stuff with them. They've also both passed away. I've seen things where they both said up until the end they were telling the truth. That's what happened. And then there's a lot of other people saying it was a bunch of nonsense. Yeah, and I actually tend to agree with that, Dan, that there's nothing there. I think it was just a couple. Now, why they would have left after a month is awfully quick. Like, I know what I've heard mostly about that property is they got financially in over their heads, but a month is awfully quick to suddenly and then just leave. It's kind of wild that you just pack up and leave everything behind. But I think there's a lot more to whatever was going on with the Lutzes. And then, of course, the Warrens got involved in it, as they did with The Conjuring. And I think the Warrens were involved with the Enfield poltergeist as well, were they not? Because it was there. Oh, maybe. There's a thought, Dan, that leaving before, yeah, because who knows? And that was in the States, so I'm not sure how things go there. But yeah, there may have been but they didn't even take their stuff. Like, I don't know. It was maybe they were trying to get away from somebody else in this world, not the other side for sure. But yeah, and that story definitely freaked me out as well in the 70s when it came out. And yeah, because we were brats, we were teasing a friend of ours because their house actually had those windows must have been a thing because they were on at the Amityville house. A friend of ours from another small town had the same windows, so the movie definitely creeped them out. And which one is it? And it's quite popular on the American channels. The Valeska Murder House, I think, has those same types of windows. They were only there. Oh, okay. With the Warrens. And then, yeah, and I've just seen something about Enfield now. And I don't know, Dan or JP, if you've heard of him. Think his name, oh, Danny Robbins, but with one B. I, according to what I've seen, and I just came across him on YouTube the other day. I can't remember how. He has a show, The Uncanny. And so he was talking about Enfield and a number of other things as well. I've been catching up on BBC interviews with him. There was quite a good one that I saw the other day, and I can't think of the other journalist's name, but he's also left the BBC and he was interviewing Danny, and they were talking about um, the Enfield case and different things. And when I was at Ouija Brothers the other day, they mentioned that they almost had a chance to get into, well, they were in um, the Enfield house, and the new property owners almost agreed to do an interview, but apparently the dineros they wanted were just way more than Steer Griff could afford to pay them to make that. But man, that would have been an awesome, I mean, having Stan Griff do it, that would have been an amazing documentary because, we know they don't fake. So that would have been interesting. But apparently, there's still stuff going on in that house. Oh, he wrote ghost books. Cool. Remember reading. Yeah, he's got plays and things as well. Now, see, his work I haven't read, so I need to check that out. But well, there's several books that, especially when I was a kid, like in my early teens and that, reading them. The Exorcist, watching the movie definitely freaked me out. And I remember there was a big hullabaloo because having Linda Blair in it, being a kid and the content, and I'm thinking, wow, compared to the stuff they have kids in now, like The Conjuring and whatnot, The Exorcist was pretty tame, but back then it wasn't. The Exorcist freaked me out. The Amityville horror really started making me think about different things. And I mean, I've shared before, I had weird stuff going on in my house. So I started this whole paranormal journey to find answers and, what is this stuff? But the book that really, really, really freaked me out was The Entity. And I can't think of the author's name right now, but it was, I think she was a single mom, and I don't know what was going on in her house. It was really scary, and she was being physically attacked and all kinds of things going on. And if I, because it's been like a long time, decades since I've read the book, I actually want to find it and read it again. If I remember the ending correctly, she ended up in a psychiatric hospital, and supposedly whatever it was um, followed her to the hospital. So, yeah, see, you read The Entity too. It was freaky. And I think the big thing about that one is, unlike The Exorcist, that was fake and just meant to scare you, and the Amityville Horror, which then it started coming out, okay, it's a hoax. So it's like, okay, scary movie, but not the real deal. The Entity was supposedly the real deal, and there were no answers. And it's like, okay, how how did that happen? What created that? Was it psychokinesis? Was it an entity? You know, had the spirit been there before they moved into the house? It was very a 9 or 10. The Elemental. Touch. Now, is that Michael McDowell, JP? No, that I think his are the Elementals. I don't think I've read the Elemental. See, my TBR list is going longer and longer and longer, which is great. I just need to get that organized and start working through it. But yeah, I remember reading those. And another one that yeah, Michael McDowell is an author, so I'll have to check that out because the name sounds familiar, but I know I haven't read it. Another book that freaked me out, and it was because it was great and a scary book, was Ghost Story by Stephen King and Peter Straub. And I mean, they're both amazing horror fiction writers. And that particular story was about how you may think things stay buried, but other events and things flow out from that. I mean, I loved reading Stephen King. I started reading him in high school. And again, I'm ancient. I read Carrie when it first came out, and I've been following King right up until um, what was the last? I think Dolores Claiborne was one of the last Stephen Kings I read. And I've been starting to get back into reading him again, some of the newer works. But I mean, The Shining, I loved The Shining. And if there was a location I could go to, I would love to go to that hotel and see it. I loved the book. The movie was well done. It was just a great story. Cujo I found difficult because anything with animals is hard for me. I mean, I read Old Yeller as a kid and probably cried for the last 3 chapters. So I'm one of those people, and I'm kind of sorry I didn't get the clip or a snapshot from when I was on Facebook. It has a picture of a dog running, and I think the saying was something like, I'm good as long as the dog makes it. So, no matter how many, as bad as it sounds, how many humans, as long as the dog or the cat make it, I'm good. Dreamcatcher. Now, I haven't read that, but I watched the movie. Your name. Cool. That's neat. Yep, love dogs. And yeah, Cujo and the movie was just brutal, brutal. But the Stephen King book, out of all the one, I mean, I read Carrie, I remember Christine, the one with the car, Cujo, Firestarter, The Shining, Salem's Lot, of course. My second vampire book, Dracula, was my first into vampires. I loved his short story collections, Pet Cemetery, Tommy Knockers. It was creepy, but I don't have the thing with clowns. So it was a good scary story, but didn't freak. Oh yeah, see, I still need to find the car. You mentioned that before, John Paul. I've got to check that out for sure. But the Stephen King book that totally freaked me out and scared me beyond belief was Misery. It was just way too real. Do you know what I mean? Like Tommy Knockers was kind of out there and bizarre, and I didn't like the part with the dog. The Shining was, you knew it was a horror story, same as Pet Cemetery. But Misery was freaky. That whole, the author, and I don't think I've watched the movie, but the actress in it, Kathy Bates, I mean, she's an amazing actress. And I've seen her in, not that I can think of them off the top of my head, but I've seen her in so many films, and she is just amazing. And knowing the story, Misery, I just couldn't watch it because she would be way too believable. Um, Another movie that freaked me out as a kid was The Birds. I mean, Alfred Hitchcock, totally. He, yeah, Alfred Hitchcock, then Stephen King. Um, I mean, The Birds was just freaky. And I remember watching that. And of course, Psycho, which I didn't know until maybe a year and a little bit ago, is actually based on a real life murder. Is it Ed Gain? I think it is. Now, there's one messed up dude for sure. And I've never seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is, if I remember right, also supposed to be based on him. But I don't know how that's possible because Ed, well, like Carrie, had a mom that had issues. And then when they went into Ed's house, they found furniture made out of, yeah, and my face is just cringing because, I mean, he had dug up people, he had killed two people, and it was just, I mean, I know those people are out there, but yikes. Yeah, see? We're a lot alike, Dan. It deeply disturbed me too. Oh, yeah. Yikes. And JP with hammers. I'm okay with hammers. I just, yeah, that and again, I think because I think misery kind of gets to you because you you can almost see, especially with when there's stalkers and other things out there. And it's why I agree whenever I see on, whether it's in the paranormal investigators or in the comment section, humans are way scarier than anything. Well, than most things you're going to find in the paranormal. I mean, I think, and this is just me, I think there are some dark entities out there, whether I'd call them the big D. Yeah, I don't know, because that requires a certain spiritual path that I don't walk. I think there's something there that may not be in favor of humanity, whether that's created by humans and people all focused. Um, and the best example of that, and I keep coming back to it, is Supernatural. And it was in their first season called Hell House. And it's where, and it makes me laugh, especially with the clickbait. Um, and they're taught, and it was ghost facers, these paranormal investigators that Sam and Dean run into. And each time they changed their website, this ghost entity, whatever you want to call it, in the building would keep changing. And so when Sam and Dean were there, they're like, okay, what's going on here, that everything's changed? And I wonder about that, partly because with having read The Field and The Intention Experiment by Lynn McTaggart, as well as Frequency by Penny Pierce, and so many of the law of attraction things of, you create your reality. And I really wonder, with so many people focused on these locations, how much of it is, say, a paranormal presence versus all those humans laser focused on that location creating something. A perfect example would be the Conjuring House. I mean, when Sam and Colby uploaded one of their episodes, it had hit something like 10 million within a matter of days. And I get people are watching the video. So then I guess it becomes okay, by watching that video, by extension, do all those thoughts go to that location? Do you know what I mean? It's, I don't know, there's just so much to wrap your head around. See, I never watched the Conjuring movie. I remember I was still working then, and I remember a number of the students telling me about it. And was there something called Paranormality or something like that? No, that's the book. There's some other paranormal movie that came out, and I think by then because a lot of the horror movies by that point had just gone above and beyond. They were either, well, okay. I enjoyed Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger, the original ones. I haven't seen the remakes. The actor in that did a great job. I watched some of the Halloween movies, and I wasn't a Friday the 13th. My best friend loved Friday the 13th. I was a Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't know if it was the cool clicky nails or what. And again, with those, you knew that they weren't based on anything real. Um, yeah. And that's the thing with, once they come up with making more than one. The original one is good. They've got a story, but then they just keep going too far, and then they're really clamoring to try and stick with it. Um, and that happens with a lot of these franchises, I find, is that the first few, maybe one, sometimes two, are good because they're fresh or they're original or they're just a different take on things. But then when they start getting into, sequel 5 to 10, it's like, yeah, give it up. Go get another idea. It's been overdone and it's not really fresh anymore. But yeah, So there's a lot of neat things. And Dan, I don't know if you watched my occult essay video. And JP, I did mention in the comment that I answered, that's where my idea for Hoax or Holy Grail came from, because I wrote that essay back in 1982. We don't have grade 13 here anymore. We have grade 12 and then a victory lap, which is a bit of a joke because, I mean, you've graduated. There are some students who go back to it, better their marks so they can get into university or what have you. Some just go back because they don't want to go into the world of work yet, or they don't want to leave their friends yet. But anyway, that's a whole other sidebar on our education system. But so yeah, my geography teacher was awesome. He let me tie in my geography with my interest in the occult, do a survey, write up my summary. Literally, it was handwritten because we didn't have computers and I didn't have a typewriter. And as I was reading this again back in November, I'd found it a few months before. I just hadn't sat down and read it. And as I was reading all of this, I'm like, holy crap. I was laughing because there was I think it was the UFOs. I was thinking, we might have answers by the year 2000. Nope, it's 2023. UAPs, as they're now called, and aliens are definitely more in the news than they've have been in a while. And Dan, yeah, I did see that aliens in Miami, and Karen from Doof Doof Paranormal had also been talking about that, and she has Enzo on there quite often, who is into UFOs and has been studying them for a long time. He does talks and goes to conventions. Awesome guy. And he actually helped me figure out, because I thought I'd got this really cool image of a meteor. And no, turns out it was just a plane, had to do with the curvature of the earth. So those cool things coming off it. It wasn't a meteor. It was just a plane and the sun and the time and everything. But yeah, it's interesting that now UFOs again are in the news. UAPs, I should say, are in the news, and it makes you wonder, what is it that they're not putting in the news, and they're taking up the time with UAPs and such. I mean, I personally wish we would have some answers. I've also just noticed that Skinwalker Ranch is closed again, and I'm gonna have to. I hope I saved that video, but I may not have. So the newest owner, because Bigelow sold it, and then the new owner had it all fenced off and stuff, and they were supposed to be doing all kinds of investigations, whatnot. And I can't remember. I just came across a video, and I can't even remember now the channel that put it out, but now they've closed the ranch again. I don't know if things were getting too freaky, or they just figure they can up the price. There's so many things about that location and it's like the Conjuring House. With Skinwalker Ranch, there were owners before the ones who got into the books and everything else, and then Bigelow got involved, and then this other person. But I have never heard or come across yet of anything from the original owners of that ranch. And so, what was going on before those people? Yeah, well, and I don't know if you actually can go there, Dan, but I would love to know um, what it would have cost. But Bigelow didn't let people go there. He had all his own scientists, supposedly. And I'd read a book by George Knapp and one of the scientists. And to me, I think there is something to the legend, certainly from the indigenous people in that area. And there's something there. But when Bigelow's people went, first of all, they didn't stay on the property 24/7. They would just kind of fly in and out now and again. The original owner um, actually continued to take care of the ranch, which to me made no sense because they'd bought another ranch. So, how one person at two ranches and they weren't close together? But Bigelow's scientists didn't stay there. The other thing that didn't make sense to me is they built a separate little location for the scientists to stay in. Why didn't they stay in the original house? I mean, there was supposedly all this stuff about creatures walking and wandering around the house. If you're a scientist, why wouldn't you just stay in the original house and figure out what was going on? So there's a lot of weird things with Skinwalker. Same with the Conjuring House. You've got Andrea Perron, who's now made money from books and doing the paranormal tour. But there was an owner for 20 years before Corey and his wife bought that property. And then they've since sold to this new owner. And Dan, I don't know if you saw the comments between Corey and I. It worked out fine. Um, and I know he's talked about different things that have happened while he lived there, and he's still involved with, I think, doing tours and stuff or investigations there. But the owner that was there for 20 years between the parents and when Corey bought it didn't have all this stuff going on. There was no portal to hell. Bathsheba was not a witch, never was going to be. Unfortunately, her grave keeps getting damaged and destroyed, partly because when the clickbait or the entertainment paranormal, whatever you want to call them, go, they keep perpetuating the lie that started with the other individual who didn't do her research. So I wouldn't spend money on her books. Sorry, that's just me. But so the owner that was there for 20 years, who actually planned to retire there, she loved that property. And I've seen more than one video with her. She ran a daycare center there. So you're not going to tell me that there's all these evil woo-woo things hanging out there. The kids would have noticed something. She wouldn't have been able to run a daycare. And that woman and her husband ended up selling the property because when they made the Conjuring movie, and to be honest, this is part of why I won't watch it, they released the address. So suddenly everybody and their cousin decided it was their right to show up 24/7 at this property. And the owner had enough. Like she said, she and her husband were getting older. They were getting freaked out by these people and all this nonsense. So they ended up selling. So my big bugaboo with that whole thing is, again, what was going on for 20 years? Did the ghosts or whatever these things are just go on hiatus? Were they, I mean, it's not like anything big happens or did while Corey was there or with the new owner who doesn't live there. So again, there's something going on there, but is it a haunting or is it generated by the focus that people put on that property? And again, I go back to the idea of tulpas. Now, it's funny you mentioned JP, My Haunted Hotel. And I remember the big hullabaloo that happened with them and the shape. And Dan, I still think it's ridiculous they did not invite you to go. Um, and I stopped watching them ages ago because to me, and this is just me being picky, whether they're fake or not is neither here nor there to me. You can't call it a proper investigation when you haven't done a baseline. I know they've looked into different things and they have some of the history, but they didn't have a baseline, in my opinion, of what was going on at that property. And then, even before they started inviting people in to do investigations, whatever, Danny had his friend, I think her name was Lady Snake, do a dark ritual in room number 6. Now, sadly, Lady Snake has since passed away. As someone who has read quite a bit about greencraft and other such subjects, one, my question would be, why on earth would you do a dark ritual before you've even figured things out, let alone at all, because of the ramifications, whether you call it karma or the law of three? There's a ripple effect to things. So they had that done before people started coming in. Then, because I used to watch them, it was interesting, it was different. So, fine, season 1, and I did kind of enjoy it because they talked to the investigators or guests, whatever you want to call them, and the guests were able to talk about their experiences and impressions, and I really enjoyed that. But then season 2 came along. All of a sudden, it became all about Grace and the haunted collection. And I'm thinking, why are you bringing these things in here? You haven't even figured out what was there in the first place. So now you're just muddying the waters even further. You still don't know what was originally there. Now you've done a dark ritual. You've brought in this haunted collection of stuff, and I don't even know what they're doing now because, like I say, I stopped watching them ages ago because it was no longer about the people coming. It was just about the three of them all the time. And I'm like, this isn't what I'm tuning in for. So I don't know, but with the Grace doll, there's another thing that I wonder is how much of that whole thing is all the attention that people are putting into that doll. You know, did she pick up a spirit? Did something happen? I don't know. I mean, there's something weird about that doll. But whether it's from, I mean, the other is, think of how many times these paranormal investigators take dolls and bears and this and that, and nothing ever happens to them. So what was it about Grace that would have picked up an entity? I mean, they all go to different locations and take their gizmos and gadgets. It's but see, you did. That's exactly why you should have been there for that supposed debunk episode. I mean, they only had 3 people, for heaven's sakes. And, nothing against Beardo or the other 2 gentlemen from the other team that were there. But that's a big location. And the 3 of them were there, you know, along with the debunkers. uh, Personally, I would have been more impressed if it had been 5 or 6 debunkers, so like Dan, include you and Purple and someone else if they were close by, and the 6 of you just in the building without the other 3. To me, that would have been more impressive. The other thing that turned me off of My Haunted Hotel, I'd watched the one episode where the three of them had, and I'd already unsubbed from them, but YouTube decided to throw it on my thing, recommend or whatever it's called, my homepage. So I was watching it, and it was the three of them, and they were, for reasons I cannot fathom, locked upstairs. For bigger reasons I can't fathom. So Danny's locked in with the doll, but Brett and Harry can move around. I don't know, that whole episode didn't make a ton of sense to me. But my big turn off and the end of my watching anything from them was they'd taken some pictures, and Brett goes running out after he sees the picture, and they're downstairs, and there's some smoke or whatever shape in the shower, which he didn't see when he took the picture. And then instead of talking to Dan or Harry, they see him on the cameras get in a cab and go home. And I'm like, WTF, buddy? You How unprofessional. So you don't even have the courtesy to tell the two other people you're in the hotel with that you're freaked out and leaving. And two, it's freaking smoke you didn't even see. And you sit in this hotel for how many months now? And you want us to believe you're freaked out by this picture, so you had to go home. Oh, wait, I lied. I did watch another episode after because I was shocked that nothing was said, and they're all best buddies sitting in that control room again. I'm thinking if some dumbass had done that to me when I was out on an investigation, it'd be the last frickin' time you'd be with me on an investigation. And number two, seriously, pal, grow a pair. Some of us grew up with stuff a lot scarier than anything you've seen in that hotel. And hey, guess what? We couldn't go in a cab because it was in our homes. Dingle. Oh, okay. I'm not going to talk about them anymore. They just make my blood boil. Well, and I'll word this very carefully, Dan. It's very dramatic because, as we know from one reactor, I call overreactor, that kind of stuff seems to sell. I mean, they're at over 500K at screaming and yelling and swearing about nothing. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm grateful to him because that's how I found your channel, because you had made the channel supporting him when all that other drama um, had happened with him. And so YouTube recommended World of Mr. Gray, and I'm like, whew, this guy's cool. And hey, here we are 3 years later. So I'm glad I don't watch the other individual anymore, because how many times can you watch a 40-year-old scream and swear about nothing, and keep apologizing for swearing and all of that, but then the next week it's the same thing. So no, I didn't leave anything in the comments because I'm one of those people. It's your channel, you do you, and there's hundreds of thousands of other channels. I'll just be on my way now. And I mean, like I say, thankfully, Dan, I found you because of him. Because of you, I found Ouija Brothers. Because of Ouija Brothers, I found Mark. Thanks to your shout out and Mark's, I found John Paul. So it's all good. I got to take my cranberry juice with water. See, I don't have to go dry in January. I don't drink. So, mm, Dan, how goes dry January? But yeah, so it's there's just so many different things. And well, I was gonna share, because like I say, I've been, oh, the lighting's not spooktacular, but here we go. So I made my Hoax or Holy Grail little booklet. Glad you're feeling good. Congrats. And then this is my planning resource for Hoax Holy Grail. And I now have two up. I actually have to add the heading to my the occult project, because that's actually my first video. And then, as you can see, I now have 39 ideas for videos to cover. And it isn't just going to be the paranormal. I'll be looking at things like doing vision boards. Do they work? I'll be looking at aromatherapy, crystals, energy healers. So it's going to cover, well, like my books, a wide spectrum of things. So the next step is, okay, I've done the occult project, and now I have to decide, do I want to start, because I want to do the Fox sisters as well, but I also want to, under each video, include the different books that I've used as information, the different websites that I've gone to. So I really want to be clear on what I've referred to so that I can include all of that in the description box below the videos so that people can go and check them out as well. And I'm really hoping that as people start to watch those, they'll comment either with resources or information that they have. It's the one thing that I still haven't I'm just not good at, and I'm not sure what else to do in the videos or how to encourage it. Is I know, and I'm very grateful for that, more people are watching videos. My hours have gone way up, more than I expected. But okay, take care, Dan. Enjoy your dinner. See, you need to take your dinner to the computer because you know you want to stay. Have a good one. Thanks so much for stopping in. Take care. But yeah, so I need to figure out how to get people to leave comments. And JP, you're amazing, and thank you so much for the take care, Dan. And JP, thank you so much for the comments you leave. It really helps. You know, the more comments that I get, the more the channel's getting out there and people are getting a chance to see it, which is wonderful. I just need to figure out how to get people a little more engaged. So it's nice that I'm getting the thumbs up. It's nice that I'm getting viewers. So the next hurdle is going to be getting the comments. And like I say, there's a whole bunch of different things that I've got planned there. So I've got to decide where I'm going next, whether it's going to be the Fox sisters or some other topic. But yay me, I've got more than 39 ideas. I just only have 39 pages for my notes in here. So I'm going to have to set up excuse me, another book. Throat gets so dry talking. That'll be the other reason it'll be nice to have someone else with me, because then I can take a break from the chit chat. So I'm just going to have another sip of juice. Aw. Thanks, JP. I appreciate that. And I mean, it's nice. I mean, like I say, I've heard from someone that he listens to me at work, which I had no idea. And he's here in my area, so that's kind of cool. I haven't had a chance to see him in a while, but he did send a message through with my husband, so that was awesome. And I had a nice comment this morning. Someone else listens to me on their way to work, so it's like cool. I get to go around in all these people's cars, and it's great. You know, it gives them something to listen to, and I enjoy that. So, you know, it's coming. For the longest time, I wasn't even sure I was going to get to 100. Now, thanks to Dan and Mark and other people shouting out, I just had a lovely shout out from Beyond Books. And I mentioned her in my cat video because she's got a great channel and, starting out. So I would love to see her grow as well. And I found a few more channels because of her. So it's great. On one hand, some of that drama rama a little while ago did me a huge favor because I've been starting to explore other channels, starting to think about different content creation. So it's been awesome. But the last thing that I did want to go through on this thing, and I just actually on this stream, and I just found out about this. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday watching Renee actually on Beyond Books, and she was talking about 24 and 24, and it has to do with banned books. And then I watched another channel. It was the link in Renee's video, and she was talking. It's where I think she found out about the 24 in 24. Now, they're both American creators. And so they were talking about, and do I have the name of? Yes, the American Library Association. And that's where they were getting their list of 24 books to read off the banned list in 2024. So I subbed to the other channel, and I'm going to have to look up that name as well. See, there's a few things that aren't right at the top there. But another booktuber, and I said to her, "Yeah, I'm definitely on board with this. I don't like being told what I can and cannot do. Seen my 21 rituals video. No, I don't do it the way the book says, but it works for me, and my life is positive, so I'm sticking with that." And you're funny. And sadly, JP, I found the same with some of them. It's like I said with Dan with that other channel. Yeah, now I look back at it and it's like, oh my God, how did I manage to actually watch that stuff? But it's a growing thing. And like I say, because of them, I found some other amazing connections as well. So yeah, with the banned book, so I'm like, yeah, I'm totally on board with this. I have my goal on Goodreads, so this will tie right in with it. And so I went to the American Library Association because, like I say, they're both American content creators. Great channels, highly recommend, and I'll need to get their names into the box. But then I thought, well, I'm going to look and see what's happening here in Canada. And sure enough, we've got a bunch of banned books as well. And what I found out is February 19th to the 25th is Banned Book Week, and to bring awareness about some of these things that are banned and the titles and how we have our human rights and freedoms, so we shouldn't be told what to read or not read. So I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely on board with this, and I'll be reading books from the American list and the Canadian list. So there, I may have my 50 books all taken care of. But what I found interesting, and again, when I do this more, and when I do this as a video, which I will be, I'll include all the links. But I was shocked when I looked up books banned in Canada. There's Penguin Random House Canada had 15 books listed. That was from a while ago. CBC.ca had 29 books listed. and trying to that might have been the one from February 2023, because I know one of these was current. Now, what I found shocking, and I've got my pile here, is that this is actually a banned book. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Yeah, it's banned, or well, on the list of people trying to ban it because it has offensive language. I'm like, you could pretty much ban every book for offensive language depending on your own ideas and viewpoints. Like, seriously? Yeah, really. It's on the list of 29, and I printed off the 100 books from the American Library Association, and that's from, oh, does it have 2010 to 2019? These are the books that people had tried to get banned, and the Bible is on their list at number 52. And I'm thinking, good thing I picked up a copy, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to finish doing my Da Vinci Code spiral as reference. So yeah, that's banned. There's a Star Wars A New Hope by George Lucas. I'm like, are you kidding me? A Star Wars book. A Clockwork Orange. Now, I saw that movie years ago. That was actually when I was in college. And it was a creepy movie, but I've never read the book. But now that I've seen it on the list, I'm definitely looking for a copy of that to read it. And Goosebumps, those little kid horror stories because of violence. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me, people. Like, they're scary stories with monsters. What do you want them to do? Kiss the monsters? Like, seriously, people, get a grip. Then, as far as, and I'm not going to go through all 100. This is the list, but I did print it because I'm going to read quite a few of these actually. Looking for Alaska. And this is by John Green. If it's the book that I'm thinking of, it was an amazing story about teenagers and things that happen and friendships. I don't know why it was banned. And these, I don't have the reasons beside them. Some of the other ones I did. Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. 50 Shades of Grey. Now, I'll be honest, I have no interest in reading 50 Shades of Grey, but if other people want to read it, so be it. Like, there's a ton of books out there. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I remember reading that when I was in high school. It was a challenging read because of the issues that are covered in there, the intolerance and the horrific way that people treated each other. But why would you ban that? That's history. And in order to learn from history, you have to know what was going on and all of that. Like, it's ridiculous. The Handmaid's Tale. I read that one in high school too, by Margaret Atwood. Um, Crank by Ellen Hopkins. Now, again, and I read this, it was in one of the books to read in the English classes I used to be in. Crank, I had a problem with for two reasons. One, it's not written in paragraph shape. She's got all kinds of weird shapes and stuff going on with it. And two, I just don't think a mother should be making money off her drug addicted daughter telling her story and releasing books about it. To me, that's just beyond wow. But again, it's a story. There's people, there's parts to it. It could certainly, you know, have a discussion and whatnot. Part that just made me cringe is that this is a mother talking about her daughter's drug addiction. I'm like, no, just ick. Like I said, number 52 is the Holy Bible. 57 and oh, are they down at? Of course she is. Oh, is the House of Night series by PC and Kristen Cast, a mother and daughter writing team. Sorry, as I'm wiggling around there. Exactly. See, prohibition. You want to read it. And I mean, it's about teenagers, vampires. You know, there's other things, of course. Um, I laughed with a friend of mine because you'll learn a lot about the green craft, not so much vampires, but you'll learn a lot about the green craft reading the Mark series, which I find hilarious. But yes, all 13 of those are banned. Just gonna, yeah, as people wanting, yeah, exactly. You learn about exactly, JP. I wholeheartedly agree. Here in my area, they're renaming a bunch of schools because of the names. And again, use the name as a learning point, a talking point. By trying to make all this stuff disappear doesn't mean it didn't happen. You know, make people aware, learn from the past, but you can't learn about the past if you're trying to hide it under the rug. And what really irks me about that whole renaming thing is, okay, so now you're going to rename all these schools. So you have to pay for the new sign out front. You have to pay for the sign on the building. You have to pay for thousands and thousands of business cards for your administrators and your teachers and your social workers and yada, yada, blah, blah. Then you've got all the letterhead because not everything is on the computer. So now there's more printing costs. And then all the other ripple effects. So you've got to get all your team shirts and everything else replaced. It's like you're whining and moaning that there isn't enough money in our education system to educate our kids. But now you're going to piss away how many millions of dollars? You know, you want to rename it, pull it out of your own pockets instead of the taxpayers. Like, ugh, I tell you, there are people that really tick me off, man. The Giver is another book that I read that I have no idea why it's on this list. Anne Frank, Diary of a Young Girl. Are you kidding me? That book I have read twice, and I cannot fathom why someone would want that banned. I mean, it's heartbreaking. It tells you what it was like in that time period. And I think people need to read that. People need to know Anne's story. You know, it's like I say, there's just some of the things on this list that make me shake my head. Now, the one on the list, this is 79, by the way, 1984 by George Orwell. Now, I find it interesting because I do have 1984, and it is on my to be read list. I originally read that in 1983, and it totally freaked me out. I decided that I'm going to read that again because it's wild how much our world has turned into Big Brother and what Orwell was talking about in 1984. So I don't know, maybe that's why some people want it banned. They don't want people to clue in. how right George Orwell may have been. And a lot of this younger generation, they think nothing of CCTV and, being monitored in your own home, which is creepy. Or, CCTV all over the street. So whether you're driving or walking, there's somebody watching you. If you've got that stuff in your home, you don't know who's watching and laughing their ass off at the security place or whatever. They've got Alexa in their homes, they've got cell phones. It's like Brave New World is also Brave New World, but it's by somebody else. Huxley? Aldous Huxley is also on there. Oddly enough, they didn't ban Animal Farm. And I just reread that last year. But yes, his 1984 is banned. This list also has The Clockwork Orange. So, yeah, it's just wow. It Thank you, Aldous Huxley. He's on the list as well. Um So yeah, there's a bunch of books now I'm gonna look up and be reading, but like I say, I am gonna do a video about the 24 and 24, the banned book. I'll have links for the different things. What I found fascinating is that most of the reasons, like I say, I haven't been through the list of what 100 from the American Library Association, but when I did look at some of the other lists on that page as well, and the Canadian list, the main reason for people wanting to try and get these books banned was either offensive language, violence, or explicit sex. My thought on that is, do you people not watch TV, streaming video, YouTube, or social media? I mean, seriously. And there's channels I've unsubscribed from because I worked in high schools for over 10 years. I've heard the F bomb enough to last me 3 lifetimes. I don't want to listen to adults who are vocabulary deprived dropping an F bomb constantly. Nope, there's a lot of other words there. The other thing I found amazing is Anne Rice's The Witching Hour didn't make the list. Why does that shock me? Because it's 1,200 pages of explicit sex, incest. The witchcraft in here is a bit of a joke. It's not really witchcraft at all. It's Hollywood nonsense. But basically, this is a family of inbreds. And it's just, wow. I don't know. I guess whoever tried to ban books must have been a Rice fan because this is more explicit than any of those other books that I've read. And like I say, I've read a ton of them. Another book that didn't make it, and I'll be talking about this in the future because this is the only Wikipedia that I actually consider valid. And this is A Modern Day White Witch's Guide, and this is by Sean Robbins and Leanna Greenaway. And it's a fascinating read for anyone who is interested in Wicca, nature, that type of thing, herbs. There's a lot of excellent information in here. And like I've said before, I don't do spells and stuff like that. I do Reiki and other stuff, manifestation, affirmations. Um, I don't do rituals. Yeah, I thought you'd enjoy that, JP. But it's a great read, and I enjoy it. And I'm glad it didn't get the banned list. Another author I'm shocked didn't make the list was Lovecraft. I mean, some of his stuff is definitely out there. But it's a fascinating read, so he didn't make it. And another author who didn't make it was Michael McDowell. And I just reread his books. I love his writing. There's The Amulet and Cold Moon Over Babylon. They're both set in the South of America, and the time period, again, gives you an idea of what was going on, the issues between how whites and people with money are perceived, and how people without money are perceived. In Cold Moon Over Babylon, we see the difference between white, black, and how people are treated. So, again, they're books worth reading and recognizing that, times I would hope have changed, but based on some videos and things that I've heard from, well, TikTok and other social media, apparently it's still okay to slam people and be ignorant. And if you make comments about white people, well, so what? Big deal. I'm like, just wow. Hey, Paranormal by the Sea, how are you? Welcome. But yeah, it's we were just chatting about banned books, and I now have my reading list for the year because I'm a brat. If you tell me I can't read it, then I'm definitely going to find it to read it. So my list is going to be um, growing in terms of I'm doing very well, thank you. But yeah, so it's I don't get well, I do and I don't get this thing about banned books. It's that whole my way or the highway kind of attitude thing. And personally, I'm all for the if you're going to tell me it has to be my way or the highway, I'm more than happy to show you the nearest turnoff because or off ramp, however you want to say it. I just don't have the patience for people like that. It's to me, we're all connected. It's much easier to make life better for each other than to constantly keep trying to insist that it has to be your way and you're the only one who knows this. And to me, I don't have to me, a kindred is not someone who I agree with 100% of the time. To me, a kindred is someone who we have common interests and we can agree to disagree on some things. We don't have to be exactly alike. I mean, that's not how you're going to grow or how new things are discovered. You discover new things by talking to people with different ideas and different viewpoints. So, yeah, I don't know. That's just me. But yeah, and JP, I don't know if you've checked out Paranormal by the Sea. I've just met them through the podcast Monkey. So there's a new channel to check out. Yeah, it's and I mean, I don't know because there's always been this thing about banned books and banned movies, and I certainly remember hearing about it in the day. Um, Referring back to the 1970s and that. And now I don't know if it's just so much because of social media and, everyone's so plugged in or what have you, and this whole free speech thing. So people are just kind of spewing and spouting whatever, whether it's based in fact or not, is kind of irrelevant. Um, like I happen to be in, well, I happen to be in a live chat. Someone decided that empaths have mental illness. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Number one, thank you very much, but I have a degree in psychology. Two, hey, guess what? I have a book written by a psychiatrist. So thanks for your opinion, but I think I'll stick with our opinion of yes, there are empaths in the world. Yes, it is a thing. And no, we're not mentally ill. But, thanks for your free speech and nonsense. There you go. It's a great channel, and they do a nice job and check places out. So for sure, give them a peek. And I don't know when the podcast Monkey is starting again. That's usually on Monday afternoons. I think Justin is the host, and he has guests on. It was really nice. His last one actually of the year was just him, and he had gone through all because he's been in the paranormal for quite a while, and he was going through all the different locations that he had been to and kind of what some of his thoughts were about some of the more popular um, places. So he had done, I think if I remember, and he was also talking about Enfield, um, I'm gonna say it wrong. Bodnam. I need it in front. No, that doesn't sound right. The jail starts with a B. You'll know what I mean. So he had gone through quite a few, and I need to take a look at watch his podcast again because he had a lot of great locations. I think he also mentioned 30 East Drive. And like I say, it's funny. I'd never, of all the different ghost books and things I've read or looked up online ages ago, never heard of 30 East Drive. And oddly enough, I hadn't heard of the Enfield haunting either until recently. So those are two that I'm definitely interested in checking out and looking into. But yeah. So I think we're going to wrap it up. It's been almost an hour and a half. And yeah, thanks for stopping by Paranormal by the Sea. But we're going to be wrapping up, and we just had talked about the banned books. As usual, we covered quite a bit of different things, books and movies. It was nice to see Dan pop in, and yeah, it's been good. But I think, and my hubby's probably going to be heading in shortly, and I can see the screens getting darker. It's almost 5 o'clock here. Oh, is it? Oh, that's right, because we had to change. You're right, JP. Because I had that. Well, I thought it was a little glitch, so hopefully we didn't lose anyone on the way over. But I'm going to say thank you so much for joining me again. And I've really enjoyed chit chatting and reading your comments as I've been chatting, learning some new things, increasing my reading list as always. And I'm going to say have a great one, and we'll chat soon. Take care.